Welcome, everybody.
Welcome, everyone.
So good to be with all of you today. Happy Wednesday. For those of you coming on video, hello, hello, hello. So good to see your beautiful faces. I see some very familiar faces of our current 200-hour trainees and some of our grads. If that's you, pump it up. So good to see you. If you're new to Breathe for Change, wave hello or say yes in the chat. Let us know where you're coming in from. We are so excited that you are here today and just can't wait to engage in this experience with all of you. So for those of you who I haven't met yet, my name is Dr. Ilana Nankin. I'm the founder and CEO of Breathe for Change, which, if you're new to us, is an organization on a mission to enhance the health and well-being of educators, students, and entire communities. And we run the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training that's specifically for educators and community leaders like yourself who truly care about using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change across all of our communities. And today, for those of you who are new, you'll get a taste of what Breathe for Change is all about. So we're super excited to have you. And for those of us who are in training or who are our graduates, welcome back. Michelle and I can't wait to breathe with you today. Let me tell you, I think we all need it, right? And happy summer to those of you who have made it. And I know some of you are still in school just around the corner. So we got a little bit of everything today, and I'm really excited for all of us to have a few moments to just connect to our breath and gain some tools to enhance our own well-being and teaching. So just a little bit more about me. So I'm a former teacher. I taught pre-K in San Francisco Unified School District. And when I was teaching, I was stressed and overwhelmed and overworked. And that's when I first found these breathing practices and yoga, and it just completely transformed my life and my well-being. And I ended up integrating so many of the practices into my classroom with my kids and just saw extraordinary transformations in them, both social emotionally, but also academically. And I was like, there's something amazing happening here. So I ended up pursuing my PhD in curriculum and instruction and becoming a teacher educator at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So special shout out to all of you Midwestern folks out there. And for my dissertation, I ended up following a bunch of teachers who I had taught for 2 years in the teacher education program into diverse classrooms all over the world. And I was specifically looking at how they would take up their ideals of social justice in action in their teaching. And what I ended up finding was that across the board, these equity-oriented teachers were so stressed, they were overwhelmed, they were burning out, and that negative cycle of well-being was impacting their ability to fulfill on the social emotional needs of their students. And so as I was seeing how universal the issue of educator stress and burnout was, and this was before the pandemic, so let's be honest, that has continued to skyrocket over the last several years, unfortunately. I had simultaneously just gotten my 200-hour yoga teacher certification, which, as those of you in our training know, is such a life-changing experience. And the educators I was teaching at the time found out I was a yoga teacher, thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So they ended up renting out space in the student union for me to teach them yoga in addition to my education courses. And one thing led to the next. Day after day, different teachers would come up to me and say things like, oh my gosh, Ilana, the students who normally have anxiety attacks before tests are utilizing these breathing techniques that you taught us. Their test scores are improving. Or, the students who are experiencing so much trauma in the home are learning how to breathe and move their bodies, and everything is improving. And so I was like, nothing's going to stop me. I'm starting a movement. It's going to enhance the health and well-being of our amazing educators, students, and entire communities. And that was in 2015. And that's when I first set out to start the world's only 200-hour wellness, SEL, and yoga teacher training, specifically for educators and leaders like yourself. And somehow managed to convince 34 educators that it was an extraordinary idea to come to Madison for this 200-hour thing. And to put things into perspective, that was like an 18-day, all day, every day training at the time. And it just had life-changing results for our educators. They went back to their schools and their communities, and they were starting yoga clubs for the kids and integrating SEL into all aspects of their instruction, and, you know, getting promoted to mindfulness director and SEL coordinator and leading professional development, and just transforming their teaching and also their own well-being, which was improving retention and burnout and all of these issues in education. And so the next year we expanded to the Bay Area, New York City, and Sesame Street hosted us in New York. So when Elmo and Big Bird came, I was like, okay, we're on to something, keep going. So we certified 185 educators across 3 cities the second year, and then 600 across 6 cities and 1,100 across 11 cities. And it kept growing, and the movement was impacting millions of students. And then all of a sudden the pandemic hit. And so at that time, we were doing a bunch of in-person trainings all over, very quickly transitioned them online just so that we could support the educators that were in the current training. Simultaneously interviewed hundreds of educators and an admin and said, like, what do you need and how can we help? And it became very, very clear that what our 200-hour training had to offer was addressing 2 of the biggest issues in education, which were educator stress and burnout, as well as student social emotional learning and mental health. So we have not looked back since the beginning of the pandemic, when we transitioned our trainings into the online space, which I know many of you are in or are graduates of. And for those of you who are joining us today to learn about these trauma-informed practices and how they can transform our lives and our teaching, you will get a small taste of what our 200-hour training has to offer. So that's a little bit about me and Breathe for Change and who we are. And none of this would be possible without my partner in crime, Michelle, who co-leads the trainings with me and is just the greatest teacher I know. So Michelle, will you introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi everybody. It's so good to be here with you. My name is Michelle Cordero, and I'm a lead trainer and a career yoga asana instructor. I've been leading physical practices of yoga and mindfulness for over 2 decades. So I've had a lot of time to actually embody these practices and put them to work. And also, I've gotten to see how they've changed the lives of so many of my friends, my community members, my colleagues, and they're near and dear to my heart. And Breathe for Change found me in 2020, right before the pandemic. So I had the good fortune of teaching live alongside Ilana. And then I went on board right when we transitioned to digital. And what I've seen in this transition is the incredible power that we have using this technology to reach out to educators everywhere. And it's so incredible and such a gift to me as an instructor. I'm always looking at my intersectionality, who I am. I'm queer, cisgender, I'm white passing, I'm Latinx, I'm mixed race, my parents were immigrants. I have all of these places where I have a unique perspective. We all have this, right? And what I get to do is use that specific lens and bring it with my trauma-informed experience and multiple other fun tools that I have, and apply it to these incredible universal skills of mindfulness. And it's such a gift. And I love educators as well. I just want to say y'all are my people. And I'm just a career teacher. I've always been a teacher of teachers. And so this is the most incredible fit. And it's just such a gift. And so I'm really happy to be here.
Amazing. So it wouldn't be a Breathe for Change webinar if we didn't start by settling in together. So I invite you to find a comfortable position wherever you are. You could be seated on a chair, on the floor, on a couch, or the bed. You can stand up if that's what you need right now, or maybe lay down horizontal if you're exhausted and need that extra relaxation. And just invite you to bring your hands to your heart if that feels comfortable for you. You can soften your gaze or close your eyes and connect to your breath. Observing the rise and the fall of each inhale and each exhale. taking this precious moment that we have together right now to connect to your heart. So maybe you feel the rhythm of your heart beating beneath your palm, and your breath moving in and out, up and down. And as you continue to connect to your breath, I invite you to just take this moment and check in with yourself. Notice how you are feeling right now. And as our 200-hour trainees and grads know all too well, one of our favorite SEL strategies that we do in our training is called the 2-word check-in. So I invite you to find 2 words that describe the vibe of how you're feeling inside. Just 2 words. And when you've got your 2 words, if your eyes are closed, you can gently open them. And I'd love for you all, if you feel comfortable, to put those 2 words into the chat. Awesome. Calm, open, gratefully fulfilled, mellow fellow, love it, peaceful and tranquil, focused, calm, centered, tired, alert, curious, excited, ready, stressed, LOL. Well, you're in the right place, let me tell you. Chill and tired, relaxed, calm, open, grateful, peaceful. Doesn't 2 words say so much? It is incredible. And that's definitely a strategy that if you are teaching or if you are leading a group of people, it's wonderful to integrate into your instruction, because it really gives you a pulse of what's going on in the room and how you can best respond. So y'all ready to dive in to what we have in store for you? Give me a yes in the chat, a thumbs up, an emoji, a smile on your face. Awesome. Let's do it. So we're so excited to talk about how do we facilitate trauma-informed breath work to our students. And we are going to be talking about students across all ages and how to differentiate and scaffold these practices for use in your teaching and leadership. So the number one outcome of this workshop is for you to enhance your own well-being through engaging in these trauma-informed mindful breathing practices with us. And that's because you matter and your well-being matters. And as you will soon find out at Breathe for Change, this is the foundation of everything, is your well-being. So Michelle, you want to do outcome 2?
Of course. You get to learn how to use a trauma-informed lens to teach your students and community how to use calming breathwork practices.
So exciting. And then last but not least, at Breathe for Change, community is at the heart of everything that we do. So our intention is that you feel connected to the amazing educators and community leaders in this space who are all very passionate about using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. So at Breathe for Change, we've developed what we call the Breathe for Change Teach method to support all of us as educators and leaders in teaching in a trauma-informed, equitable, accessible, and community-based and healing-centered way. And in our trainings, we dive deep into this Teach method. And today specifically, we're going to tap into that first pillar of our Teach method, which is trauma-informed. How do we teach breathing practices in a way that supports all students and that is incredibly trauma-informed? So Michelle, I'll pass it to you.
All right. So a big part of this is that you will get to gain some tools to teach using a trauma-informed lens, and you'll be able to integrate trauma-sensitive mind-body wellness practices. Specifically today, we're working with the breath, and you'll be able to incorporate that into your instruction.
So what is trauma-informed teaching? Well, let's talk about it. So this is not about what we teach, it's about how we teach. It's about our pedagogy. And so it honors every single person's lived experience. So if your students are walking in and they bring whatever they're bringing to the space, we are honoring it. We are celebrating it, we are acknowledging it, and we are allowing our students to show up exactly as they are. And trauma-informed teaching, when we're teaching breath practices, we're seeking to create safety in how we facilitate these practices and a sense of belonging so that students feel like I can choose to show up with these breathing techniques in a way that's supportive for me. Michelle, you want to talk about the next one?
Absolutely. So in trauma-informed teaching, it cultivates acceptance and inclusion in its very nature. Something is trauma-informed when you are aware of who is in the room, including everyone, and making it accessible for folks, and also just accepting the way that people show up and acknowledging that we all have differences in how we receive information, our output, our sensory overload. This is the basis of being trauma-informed.
And then trauma-informed teaching also promotes choice and agency. So super, super important, whether we're teaching these breathing practices, anything SEL, anything at all, we want to give our students choice in engaging in a way that feels safe and comfortable for them. And that may look totally different than what you expect, right? But we're giving them agency to choose how they want to engage. And we'll talk more specifically and give you very tangible examples of what this looks like as we facilitate some breathing practices with you. So at Breathe for Change, for those of you who are in training, you know this, we tag on the F to SEL because it spells self. So our social emotional learning curriculum, it stands for social emotional learning and facilitation. And we spell out self because we believe it's so critically important for us as educators and leaders to be embodying the practices that we hope to teach our students. And so for today's purpose, we're going to dive into the second component of SELF, which is breath awareness, and really get into the details of how do we facilitate some specific practices in a trauma-informed way. So Michelle, why don't you talk about the benefits?
So breath awareness automatically increases presence. Breath is one of the fundamental tools used in every meditation practice that I've ever experienced in some way. The breath is always there. It enhances our mindful awareness. And then using the breath in this way, when you consciously shift your breathing so that it is deeper and you're more focused on it, that automatically calms the body. And it's a brilliant focus for your mind because, like I said, the breath is always there. The mind's always going to go wandering, and you can always bring it back to your anchor of the breath.
And so when we're talking about breathing practices, there's kind of a process that you'll watch Michelle and I walk through as we seek to facilitate these. So I'm going meta here and walking you through what we're doing before we do it. So first and foremost, when you're facilitating breath work or breathing practices with your students, we're inviting our students to connect to the breath. Just build that connection to the breath. What this is doing is it's cultivating breath awareness. Oh, I'm aware that my inhale, there's my inhale, there's my exhale. Oh, wow, my breath seems quick right now, or my breath is slow, right? That breath awareness is really allowing us to tap into that first SEL competency or castle competency of self-awareness, right? Developing mindful awareness of the breath. From there, we will invite you at the end of the practice. So I will do some breathing together. Then we'll say, hey, just take a moment, bring your hands to your heart and just notice how you feel. Similar to what we did with the 2-word check-in. The reflection after the breathing practice itself is just as important as the practice, because what it does is like, oh, wow, I feel calm, relaxed, happy, present, centered. That moment of awareness is also developing that social emotional learning competency of self-awareness. And when we notice that we feel a certain way as a result of practicing, then later on, when times get tough, we're feeling frustrated, overwhelmed, upset, then we can use these practices to manage or regulate ourselves, right? So it's also developing that second castle competency, which is self-management. So simply by inviting your students to connect to their breath and just being aware of the breath and then saying, how do you feel? We're developing these critical social emotional learning skills for both ourselves as well as our students. So Michelle, would you like to talk about the difference between how we do pranayama with adults, and then and I'll talk about how we do it with students?
Sure. When you're working with adults, you can offer them an invitation. That's trauma informed, is first and foremost, it's always an invitation to try out these various practices. With adults, it might be that you're offering a moment of pause in between the breath. So say taking a deep inhalation and either holding that breath in or just simply pausing before exhaling. And so prana is loosely translated from Sanskrit as the breath, and yama means to cease or stop. So that's pranayama, really great for adults. So Ilana, you want to talk about kids?
Yes, I'm going to add this little X here because actually doing pranayama or inviting our students to hold or retain the breath, especially children, I would say any K through 12, at Breathe for Change, we would say, just don't do it because it's not trauma informed. When you think about what happens in a moment of trauma or in a moment of panic or a moment of heightened stress, what happens to our breath? Oftentimes we're holding it or we retain it. So when we intentionally invite students to hold it or retain the breath, it can re-trigger experiences of trauma, especially if our students are in a place of already heightened stress. So at best practice at Breathe for Change, we're like, just don't do it. It's not worth it to do something that could potentially be harmful. So what we really recommend doing with our students in the education setting is allowing them to connect to the natural flow of the breath, right? We're observing the rise and the fall of each breath. You could do so in so many different creative ways, and we'll walk you through a wide range of practices that allow you to build that breath awareness, that emotional awareness. But just in terms of safety and teaching in a trauma-informed way, we just recommend that you don't invite students to hold the breath. And obviously it's your choice and you can decide how you want to do it. And if you know your students, you have relationships with them, you've done some practices for a significant amount of time, you can make that choice. But in general, we just recommend playing it safe. So just wanted to name that because given that this is a trauma-informed webinar, super important to know what the impacts of certain practices can be. So all the practices that Michelle and I are going to guide you through today and to teach you to integrate into your instruction can be used both responsively and proactively. What we mean by responsively is, okay, it's a heightened moment of stress, or your kids are about to take a test, or some argument just broke out, or people are sad or overwhelmed, or whatever is going on. You can draw on these practices to respond in the moment versus react in a way that may not be serving for you or your students. So that would be the responsive approach. You're responding to the stress that's showing up. But these practices are just as powerful and just as important to be used proactively. And what this means is we're integrating them into our daily routines. We're incorporating them into our teaching in a more consistent, proactive way. So it's not in response to just heightened moments of stress. We start morning circle with a breathing practice, or we use these practices in transition. The students are coming back from recess. The energy is high. Let's draw on a breathing practice. And so when we use these practices proactively, ultimately we're reducing overall reactivity and enhancing our overall well-being. So we want to use them in both ways, consistently in our routines, as well as responsively in response to stressful moments. So Michelle and I are super excited to guide you through some of our favorite trauma-informed breathing practices, starting with 3 collective breaths. We'll do belly breathing, which many of you may have done some variation of this before. We'll do the breath of joy, cooling breath, flower breathing, and we'll show you how to do a practice that increases the exhalation. So, Michelle, would you like to start with 3 collective breaths?
So I invite you to stay seated if that's where you are and you feel comfortable. If you would like to stand or you're already standing, you could do that. Let's take a moment, and if it feels good to you, you can bring your hands onto your heart in any way. And you might choose to close your eyes and take a deep inhale. And exhale, let that breath go. You can let it out through the nose or through the mouth. Choose what feels most. Let's go with creating presence today. How do you create presence? Take another inhale. And exhale, arrive here. And one more time, inhale. And exhale, arriving right here, present moment. So, how was that? 3 collective breaths. How are you feeling now? Maybe a 1 word or an emoji. You can put that in the chat or up on your digital screen. Calmer, lovely, centered. Relaxed. So good, so good. Calm, quiet, connected, attuned, relaxed, focused, weightless, serene, beautiful. Love it. So good.
And you'll notice that Michelle took that moment after the 3 collective breaths to ask how you feel, to have you connect inside, right? And then a beautiful way to it also increase social awareness and build relationship skills is to invite people to share it, invite your students to share how they feel, right? That builds that connection to the practice as well as the connection to each other. So I'm curious, and I'd love for you to put it into the chat. When might be some great times that you could integrate this into your classroom or into whatever space you're teaching and leading in? So when might you use the 3 collective breaths? Think about a day. Transition moments, awesome. After recess, after lunch, or end of day. Community circle, brain breaks, yes. Before starting class, after a fight, totally. After lunch, maybe after an altercation in the hallway, doing planks before a new activity. Awesome. So you see that practice took 10 to 20 seconds, maybe, right? This doesn't take away time. It actually has you buy back time. So I hear people saying often like, well, I don't have time for this. Well, if actually everyone is more present and more focused, then you're actually buying back time. So you can integrate this into all aspects of your instruction in these small ways that many of you, but meaningful ways that many of you just mentioned. So now I am going to facilitate for you belly breathing, and raise your hand or put it into the chat if you are an early childhood educator or an elementary school educator or working with young children or a parent of young ones at home. Yeah, I see you. I see you. Awesome. So don't worry, middle school, high school, adult educators, we'll get to you in a moment. But for the purposes of showing a few ways to differentiate this, I invite all of you to grab a hold of your inner childhood hat. You can be 4, you can be 8, you could be, your 6-year-old self, whatever it is that you want. And if you're teaching the young ones, then I invite you to just imagine as though you are your student's age. And so I invite you all, if you would like, to come off mute because it's a lot more fun. And I invite you to take out your bear paws and let me hear your big bear growls. And now bring your bear paws to your big bear bellies. Inhale, fill your big bear belly with breath. Exhale, let it go. Again, inhale, filling your big bear belly. Exhale, release. Inhale, biggest bear belly breath of the day. Exhale, let it go. Now I invite you to bring your bear paws to your big, beautiful bear heart. Just take a moment, notice how you feel. And then if you'd like, you can come off mute or put into the chat and just say in one word or 2 words, how do you feel after your bear belly breathing? Let's hear it.
Energized and calm.
Awesome.
Rejuvenated.
Aw, rejuvenated. Joyful, playful, settled, alert, calm, excited, awake, playful, amazing. So you could take off your inner child hat, or you could choose to keep it on if you're like, that works for me right now. And I just want to name a few things that I did to intentionally make this trauma informed. So one thing I did is I said, I invite you to find a comfortable seat. I didn't say find a comfortable seat. I invited you. That distinction is literally the difference between being trauma informed and not, right? You're using invitational language. This is one of the principles that Breathe for Change's approach to trauma informed teaching. Use invitational language. You'll also notice maybe that both Michelle and I, various times in facilitating, we've said, I invite you to soften your gaze or close your eyes. You notice we're offering options. We're not saying close your eyes. Oh my gosh, that might trigger someone's traumatic experience from the past. Some people don't like to have their eyes closed and some people love it. So offer options whenever you're facilitating these practices. So those are just a few pieces that I want to pull out for you. And now, Michelle, will you guide us through how you might lead belly breathing for secondary students or adults?
Sure. So one thing that I like to note is that sometimes for adults, anyone past puberty, really the belly and putting hands there might pose a challenge. It might pose some kind of an emotional response. So that too, you could shift in this way. Let's do some diaphragmatic breathing. Bring your hands onto the sides of your ribs. And as you inhale, expand your rib cage into your hands. Really feel the rise and the fall of your diaphragm. You might even picture it. It's a bell-like muscle and tissue, connective tissue, really, that's rising and falling, creating the movement of your breath. You might close your eyes now. You might keep your hands there. You might want to put your hands down, connecting to this very deep breath. Breathing down and deliberately moving your rib cage as you breathe. Yeah, it's almost palpable, even in the Zoom space, how we all connect and drop in a level. I hope you felt that. How did you feel? You can pop that into the chat if you like. I'd love to hear or see some emojis. Calmer now, relaxed. Very relaxed, calm, better than the bear. Connected, aware, safe, more calm, present in this moment. Nice invitation, beautiful. Yeah, I'm silly. Feel silly, sleepy. Great, awesome.
So as you can see, that was one practice that was differentiated in a totally unique way based on who our audience is. And so depending on who you're teaching, you might be at a staff meeting alongside your fellow colleagues and want to integrate one of these practices that we just did in the beginning of your staff meeting to help everyone get grounded or centered. You might be in a third grade classroom and be like, they'd love the bear thing, or maybe my seventh graders want to connect to this practice in a different way. So you can bring in your creativity. So both of these practices I've noticed in the chat are sort of welcoming in this feeling of settled, grounded, calm, relaxed, present, but not all breathing practices need to have that outcome, right? Some might be more playful or joyful or energizing, and that's beautiful. And so one of our favorite practices that we love to do at Breathe for Change that offers a little bit different of an experience is called the breath of joy. And so I invite you all to stand up if you can, wherever you are. And if you can't stand up, you can absolutely modify this and do a seated variation. And it's called the breath of joy. And for the sake of fun, I'm going to invite those of you who can to come off mute, because how it's going to work is we are going to do 3 short inhales like this as we reach our hands up, and then on the exhale, ah. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Again, one more time. Now put your hands to your heart. Notice how you feel now, and just shout it out. How do you feel? Let's hear it. One word each.
Energize.
Great.
Awesome.
Love it. Energized, awesome, playful, so good. Well, thank you all so much. That is one of my absolute favorite practices, because I always feel like people generally expect that breathing practices are going to have this like coming in experience. And the breath of joy, it's called the breath of joy for a reason, right? Oftentimes when used in the classroom setting and the school setting, it brings about laughter and fun and a sense of play. I mean, I've done it where everyone in the room is just cracking up, and that's beautiful too, right? There's so many different use cases for all of these different practices. And again, when we are teaching the breath of joy, some people may not feel comfortable standing up and bending down. And so you offer the option. If it feels comfortable, you can stand up on your feet and join me. If not, you can do this in the chair, or you can just watch it for this time until you feel ready to try it on for yourself, right? All of these words give our students choice and agency in how they want to engage in the practice. And you think about what happens when people experience trauma. Your choice, your agency is taken away, right? In those moments, we would not choose probably the outcome of whatever it is that caused us that overwhelm, that trauma, that heightened stress. And so simply by using that language of, oh, you can do this, or you can do that, or join me if you want. It's like, oh, I'm the student. I'm gaining back some agency here. I get choice in the matter. And that's so different than being like, everyone stand up right now. Then you're like, ooh, right? I don't get to choose that. So I want to just pull out that distinction here, because it's super important when it comes to trauma-informed teaching. All right, y'all ready for the next practice? So, Michelle, let's see some cooling breath.
All right, everyone. Well, this
one's fun.
Is really fun. And so you have to stick your tongue out, and some of us have the ability to curl their tongue, kind of like a taco. I am not one of those humans. This one, I don't know, she's over here on my screen. So we'll be doing it differently. This is a cooling breath. You're breathing across your tongue. So breathing through your mouth for this one and deliberately sticking your tongue out, either taco style or sans taco. All right. So you're a unique individual if you, like me, cannot do this.
And
So,
if you're just like Michelle, you suck a straw.
yeah. You can either stick your tongue out and breathe over it, that might work, or also suck a straw. There's two different ways to vary it. So let's try together.
And just do as many rounds as feels comfortable to you. It can, if you need a break, just take that break and notice how you feel. Just notice what's going on inside. Let's see it. I invite you to put it into the chat. Let us know how you felt after that experience. Silly, focus, soothe, like a dog. What's it called? It's called the cooling breath, centered and regulated.
In Sanskrit, it's called Sitali, S-I-T-A-L-I. I'll put it in the chat in a moment.
Sleepy, calm, dry mouth. Yeah. So this practice can have that effect of like drying out the mouth. That's why you really, if you're introducing it, you want to make sure that you're not facilitating it for a long period of time without giving people choice to opt out. The way that I said, do it until it feels good for you or until you're ready to complete, because it can have a negative effect if you do it for too long. This is a practice where I wouldn't recommend doing it every single day. It has a cooling effect on the body. So when might be a good time that you would want to teach this to your students? Put it into the chat if it feels comfortable to you. If you've got some ideas, we'd love to hear it. After gym, yep, hot. After recess, perfect. After lunch, during hot weather, which is happening right here in San Francisco, hot classroom, when the AC is broken, perfect. So you're starting to understand, oh, here's my toolkit of all these trauma-informed breathing practices that I've got. This one I can choose now. This one I can choose now. This one feels good to start every single transition. So the cooling breath is definitely something I would draw on, literally to cool. That's the effect of that one. So y'all ready for the next one? Let's do it. So this one is one of my favorites, and I invite all of you, if you aren't already there, to find me in gallery view so you can see a bunch of people's faces. And if you're off video and you can come on video, it's more fun. So join us if you can. And if you're off video, that's totally fine too. So this one is flower breathing. So I invite you to bring your wrists together, bring your pinkies together, and bring your thumbs together. And then bring your flower down to your heart. And I invite you to look at your flower, imagine what color it is, what kind of flower it is. Maybe you can even imagine as though you're smelling this beautiful flower. And then inhale, blossom your flower up to the sun. Exhale, close your petals for the winter. Inhale, growing our beautiful garden up to the sky. Exhale and close. Inhale, opening your petals up to the warm sun. Exhale, close your petals for the winter. And now I invite us to create a community garden. So find a hold of your neighbor, maybe give them a high five. Perfect. And now bring your wrists together with your neighbor, bring your pinkies together and your thumbs together. Inhale, blossom our beautiful community garden up to the sky. Exhale, close the petals for the winter. Amazing. Inhale, grow our beautiful garden up to the sky. Exhale, return. Last one. Let's blossom our beautiful flowers up to the sky. Exhale, come back. Give your neighbors a high five. Bring your hands over your heart. And I invite you to just check in. Notice how you feel after your flower breathing. Then if you'd like, you can come off mute, saying one word or two words off mute or in the chat. Brandy's favorite one. Me too. I just love it.
Connected.
Connected, full, playful, happy, fun, and calm. So fun. And the beauty of flower breathing is that it is such a community builder. So if you're in person, before the pandemic, I'd invite people to put their wrists together, their pinkies together, and their thumbs together in person, either in a line or in a huge circle or in multiple circles. And we could grow our community garden together after doing a few on our own. But if that's not safe in your current context because of safety precautions that you're taking around touch, you can absolutely have people imagine, be 6 feet apart. Hey, imagine as though your wrists are together, your pinkies are together, your thumbs are together, and you can have the exact same effect. And it's so, so beautiful. So the last practice that we will leave you with today is increasing the exhalation. So Michelle, I will pass that to you.
All right, everyone. So you can stay just as you are, sitting up tall, or you might feel like standing up. That's up to you. And just take a moment. I invite you to shift your breathing to breathing in and out through your nose, if that works for you. If for any reason it doesn't work, breathe in a way that does feel good to you. And just notice your breath right now without trying to change it. Begin to notice the length of your inhalation. Again, not forcing anything, just notice. And notice your exhalation. And if you'd like, as a way of measurement, without getting caught up in the numbers, just count to yourself as you begin your inhalation, just as a way of measuring. So it's an inhale for 1, 2, 3, maybe 4. And then exhale, and try to exhale slowly and steadily for a count of maybe 5. So just a slightly longer count on your exhalation. And as you continue, keep increasing the exhalation. Leave the inhalation alone and focus on increasing your exhalation. And I'll let you feel that for a few moments more. So now go ahead and come off mute and let us know how that felt.
Great. Wonderful.
Very relaxing.
Relaxed, calmer, awesome, very calming, calmer, controlled, relaxing, very relaxing. A little lightheaded, maybe from all the collective breathing. Centering, focusing. Great. All right. Yeah.
Amazing. So that was increasing your exhalation, which can have a very healing effect when you're in a heightened moment of stress. I gave birth in September, and that's literally the breath that I used as I was going through labor to increase the exhalations in the most stressful moment of my life. And so you can think about how elongating the inhales can really have an amazing effect on and stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, that rest or digest state versus the fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. So thank you all so much for practicing these 6 practices with us. I am so thrilled. I hope that you integrate them into your daily life, into your teaching. And as a reminder, it was the 3 collective breaths, the belly breathing. We did the flower breathing, the cooling breath, the increasing exhalation, and I'm missing one. What was the one that I'm missing? Breath of joy, the breath of joy. How could I forget? Thank you all so much. So for those of you who are newer to Breathe for Change, as we mentioned, everything that we taught today is taken from our 200-hour wellness SEL and yoga teacher training that's specifically for educators and community leaders like yourself who really care about using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change. And we have training starting next week. Our summer trainings are starting, which I know some of you are part of. We are so excited. And we also have some trainings happening in the school year. And so Michelle and I will just take a few moments to share a little bit more about our trainings and how we make them accessible to educators everywhere. And if any grads or trainees want to say anything about it in the chat, that would be awesome. So, all right, so as Michelle is pulling this up, just a little bit about our training. So our training is designed to support educators in enhancing their own well-being, enhancing well-being in their relationships, in their communities, and ultimately being leaders of wellness, SEL, and yoga in your entire school, in your community, in the world. And so we're in this short overview, we'll talk about our training outcomes, we'll talk about the curriculum and the structure of our training, the certifications and credits you'll get, as well as all the ways that we make it accessible to you. So training outcomes. The first outcome is that you will enhance your own physical, mental, and social emotional well-being through cultivating a personal and sustainable yoga and meditation practice. And just like we said today, this is because you matter and your well-being matters. It's the foundation of everything. So outcome 2, Michelle.
Our second outcome, of course, is that you will walk away being able to teach inclusive and accessible and trauma-informed yoga classes and meditation practices for adults and young people, both in person as well as digitally.
And then you'll also be able to effectively facilitate SEL and wellness experiences and practices and workshops and PD and all the things for adults and young people in your school, district, or organization. So you really become a leader of this work in your community.
And our final outcome, because community is at the heart of everything that we do at Breathe for Change, our final intention is that you build incredible connections through joining our community of passionate educators and leaders who are committed to using wellness as a vehicle for healing and social change.
Amazing.
So,
what are we learning? Let's talk about it. So in our training, we have 6 content areas. We have our Breathe for Change workshops, which are grounded in our transformational curricular progression, which I'll walk you through in a moment. Then we have SELF, which we talked about today. This is our social emotional learning curriculum. You'll dive into those 8 components. We talked about just one, breath awareness, today. You'll get a deep dive into our 8 components. You'll also learn how to weave these 8 components together to ultimately design and facilitate wellness workshops and professional development for young people, as well as the adults in your community. And then there's asana, which is the physical practice of yoga. This is where You break down all the poses, you learn to sequence them together, and you ultimately learn to design and sequence trauma-informed yoga classes for both adults and young people. And then in meditation, depending on where you're at in your own meditation journey, you'll either start your meditation practice or deepen the one you already have. And you'll also learn to guide others through a wide range of meditations. Yoga philosophy is where we explore the history of yoga. We dive into the ethical principles of yoga, and in our live sessions, you end up engaging in these courageous conversations around how the ethical principles connect to who we are as teachers and leaders. And then in anatomy, this is where we talk about the physical body and how it connects to the yoga practice. And then we really learn to develop a healthier relationship to our body. So those are our content areas. And as I mentioned, our training is grounded in this transformational curricular progression. So we begin our training with a focus on what we call transformation of self, which is all about you prioritizing and enhancing your own well-being. From that foundation of your own well-being, we move into transformation of relationships, which explores how can we show up fully and enhance well-being in all of our relationships that matter to us. Then we move into transformation of community. And this is why so many of you come to Breathe for Change in the first place. This is where we explore how do we utilize wellness, SEL, and yoga as vehicles for healing and social change in all of our communities. And then we move into integration and renewal, where we look at the amazing transformations that have unfolded, we celebrate them, and then we prepare ourselves for these incredible beginnings as yoga teachers and social emotional learning facilitators. And everything in our training is designed to support you in utilizing wellness, SEL, and yoga as a vehicle for healing and social change in your community. So through our training, you get 2 certifications. You get our 200-hour yoga teacher certification, which is the international gold standard certification that qualifies you to be or to register through the Yoga Alliance, which is the umbrella organization that certifies yoga teachers in schools around the country and world. Then you also get your social emotional learning facilitator certification, which equips you as an expert of wellness, SEL, and mindfulness and yoga in your school district or organization. This is really where you become a leader of this work in the education system and beyond. And then if you are someone who needs graduate credits or continuing education units, we partner with universities so you can get graduate level professional development credits as well as CEUs through just by completing the requirements of our training. Those are optional. So our training is a combination of the most interactive, engaging, fun, beautiful live sessions on Zoom. You can think about it as a wellness retreat for you in such amazing community. And then in between the live sessions, you get access to on-demand content that you can explore at your own pace and complete by the next live session when we all come together and go deeper on the learning from the on-demand content. And so we have several, as part of, you could go next, as part of our 200-hour training, we're super excited. The moment you sign up, you get access to our Breathe for Change membership, which really allows you to deepen your personal practice and get access to resources ongoingly to support your growth. So we do live yoga classes each week and guided meditations, and where we do wellness and SEL professional development. We give you classroom and school-based curriculum starting in the beginning of the school year. You'll get access on our platform to these daily wellness practices to support your well-being, and you'll be able to engage in a bunch of conversations with members of our growing community of educators and leaders. It's amazing. So the second you sign up, you get access to our membership through the duration of your training. And then we have 3 upcoming trainings. 2 are right around the corner. So if you're interested in our summer training, now is 100% the time to apply. So we have a training starting next Monday, which we're so excited about. For those of you who are here in that training, we can't wait. So we have the Monday, Tuesday cohort this summer, which the live sessions are every week other than the 4th of July week. We skip that week. And we have a Wednesday, Thursday cohort. And what that means is that the live sessions on Zoom are from 9 to 3 Pacific time, 12 to 6 Eastern time, anything in between on those days. And then in between the live session days is when you would complete the on-demand content that we give you at the end of the training day each week. So we have a couple spots left in both of our cohorts. So if that's something that you want to do, I'll walk you through in a moment how you can apply for our training. So, and if you can't do the summer training, we have an October school year model cohort opening, or that's open and filling very quickly. Those live sessions are once a month on the weekends to support educators who have full-time jobs during the school year. And we want it to be a stress reduction training, not a stress inducing training. So one of the goals of Breathe for Change, and one of our missions is to make this as affordable and accessible to educators everywhere. And so typically a yoga teacher training, a 200-hour yoga teacher training is like $4,000 or $5,000. And we've done everything we can to make it more affordable. So we reduced the price or the tuition to $29.95. And right now we are also offering $1,000 educator discount, because let's be honest, what the work that all of you are doing is just remarkable and so needed. And so we just want to honor that and make this as accessible as possible. So if you apply using this link, and I'll show you how to do that in a moment, then you can get your $1,000 educator discount. And we also have interest-free payment plans. We know that $19.95 tuition can be a lot for people. And so we do interest-free $250 a month payment plans to support you in making this possible. So as I mentioned, or as the slide mentions, our application process is pretty simple. First, you submit your application form, which I'll walk you through in a moment. And at the end of the submit button, you schedule your call with our educator development advisors. Now, we talk to everybody because we really want to make sure that we're supporting you, that we give you all the resources you need to make this happen. And so you schedule your call, it's a 20-minute call. And then if it feels like a good fit for you and for Breathe for Change, then we'll get you registered for one of our trainings or give you the resources to do so. So the link that we just put into the chat is a link to this page where you can apply for our training. So as you can see, if you apply now, you'll get the $1,000 discount. It's very simple. First name, last name, all your info, what your role is. We got all these different roles, and then why you're inspired to join, and you press submit. On the other side of submit, that's where you will schedule your call with your educator development advisor. So until you talk to one of our educator development advisors, you will not be in our training. You sign up on those calls. So one other thing that I just want to note is that if you're remotely interested and you're not sure, still fill out that form and talk to one of our educator development advisors, because that's what this call is for, to give you all the resources, to make sure you know all the things, to ensure that you have everything that you need, to talk about funding opportunities and resources. Speaking of which, one of our goals is to make sure that you have everything that you need to seek outside sources of funding. We would way rather have someone else pay for it than you directly. So what usually happens is our educators come to us, they apply, they put down their $250 deposit, that first monthly payment, to get into the training, get access to the curriculum and the content and the community, as well as the membership and all the amazing things that has to offer. And then simultaneously seek outside sources of funding. And at any point that you get funding, we will reimburse everything that you put down personally. So a lot of times it happens simultaneously. So one of the resources that we've created is a funding justification letter for you to seek school and district professional development funds or grant funds or any funds that your school or district has or organization might have to offer. And so those funds are in that letter. We've created a funding justification letter. So you don't need to defend yourself. You could just send your advisor, your supervisor, your principal, your superintendent, whoever is responsible for the funds, you can give them this letter, and it is research-based. It talks about the impact, the outcomes, why you should do this, why they should fund you, how they can tap into ESSER funds. If you're in, where the COVID funds that are accessible now for SEL and PD related things for educators. So definitely use that. And at any point, sometimes funding takes a while, right? It's a bureaucracy. So it can take a few days and it can take months. So if in 4 months you're in the middle of training, or you've already completed your training and you get funding, we'll again reimburse you. You just reach out to support@breathforchange.com. Donors Choose is another avenue that you can use to get funding. So Donors Choose is a platform for educators. Many of you I know about it, and you can create a project that can get funded by the community for education purposes. And so we've had thousands of grads get partially or fully funded on Donors Choose. And so we've put together a bunch of templates for you where you can start your own Donors Choose, and also show you some graduates of ours who got full funding, so that you can basically not reinvent the wheel, do what they did, and then put up your picture and add your little spice to spice it up and make it you. So you can also start a Donors Choose at any point that works for you prior to an upcoming training. And then in addition to that, if all of these options don't work for you, we do have a financial assistance program that's for people who cannot afford the training based on the current resources that we have to offer. How you can get access to the financial assistance program, if it's needs-based, again, if you can't afford the $250 a month, or you can't get outside sources of funding, you otherwise wouldn't be able to do the training. You apply the way I just showed you. You fill out that form, schedule your call, talk to our educator development advisor about your financial situation, and they will give you an application to apply for our financial assistance program. And so again, everything funnels through that, you filling out the form and then talking to one of our educator development advisors. Even if you're 10% interested, you don't have to know at all that you want to do this in order to fill out that form. It's really an informational call so that you can get the support that you need. And then last but not least, we also have these wellness and SEL webinars every Wednesday, just like today, that you can continue to return to. And we have a bunch of other resources that are for free that are available to you and to your colleagues and to whoever it is you want to share them with, so that we can offer free access to wellness. And that's really our intention. So again, if you are remotely interested in doing the summer, absolutely fill out that form immediately and schedule your call today, since it's next week. And even if you are thinking about a future training, we're getting hundreds of applications every single week, just so that you know kind of the scope of this. And if you're like thinking, oh, I want to get in before the wait list starts, and I would just recommend getting a call so you're in our system as soon as possible, so that you can have access. Yay, Chris scheduled a call. So good. Yay, amazing. So I hope that this answered all of your questions. Lisa will be offering your Monday yoga class. So the yoga class is going to be part of our membership that you get access to through our 200-hour training. So when we launch the membership publicly in a couple of months, that's where the yoga class will live. And for now, you can reach out to support@breathforchange.com about the yoga class if you're interested in taking it. Do you have access to these links through email? Well, yeah, so after this webinar, you'll get access to an email with this recording, so you can go back and see all the practices again. And we'll also share a link to our 200-hour application. Yay, awesome. So we don't give out the slides out at these webinars. We do give out all of our slides and curriculum in our 200-hour training. Yay. Well, thank you all so much. I hope that this gave you all of the information that you need to take advantage of what we have to offer. And I am just so excited to see so many of you this summer and to see so many of you in a future training. And once again, I'm just going to share this link so that you have access to the form now, so that you can get on our educator development advisors calendars, which are filling up pretty quickly. Yay, awesome. Thank you, Tracy. So excited for this training. All right, everybody. Talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.